3:01 p.m. Take the roll.
Director Finch?
Here.
Director Baggerly?
I am here.
Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Thielke?
Here.
Chair Hages?
Here. All right, the next we'll skip the pledge for now. Director comments and announcements. Peter?
First, I would like to apologize to everybody for missing the last meeting. There was no big deal. I just forgot. So, apologize and hopefully that won't happen again. Senior Canyon is, we're in the last month of putting in a new 700,000 gallon tank above Thatcher School. So we are pretty busy right now, plus a bunch of other things also. But that'll be a pretty exciting thing. By mid-July, we should be have it up and running. So that's the news from the mutuals.
All right. Jim?
We did, Ojai Water Conservation District did not meet.
Okay, Johnny?
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Am I on the air? Okay. Yeah, we don't have anything to report. We talked about the Casitas rate increase, Russ, but that was about it.
Okay. Russ?
Okay, I only have a couple of things. The lake level is at 44.4% full, which is representative of 105, 709 acre feet. And that the sun will rise in the east tomorrow.
Okay. I don't have anything. General manager comments?
Yeah, I've got a couple. In Jordan, I'm going to go ahead and mention a little bit about the monitoring well, since you gave me some background on that. The first item I wanted to talk about is the RFP that we sent out for the groundwater sustainability plan and to receive proposals. That was sent out May 5th. Probably closed it a little too early. It was closed on May 22nd. We sent out to 5 different consultants. I only received one proposal, and that was from DBSNA. The other consultants were from GEI, Woodward Curran, Dudek, and Intera. I have Intera declined to, they sent me an email and declined to participate. I have called GEI and Dudek and spoke with them. They will reconsider submitting. And Woodward Curran, I have not been able to get a hold of. So based upon that, and I did talk to Brian Bondi today. He gave me a couple more names, and I'm gonna, unless I hear different from the board, I'm gonna go ahead and send out proposals again. I've clarified some issues with the firms, and I'll give them 30 days to respond. So we probably won't hear anything back until late June. So unless I hear something concerns to the board, I'll let you know.
John, do we have to deny all bids and for you to resubmit?
No, this is not really a denial of bids. It's for consulting services. You're just asking for proposals. So what I'm going to do in this case is I think I'm just going to send them all a notice, and we're extending the submittal time until sometime in June.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The other item was Jordan gave me an update. And Jordan, I didn't get all the notes, but I got most of them. I think I just dropped my pen. Yeah. On the Wildlife Conservation Board grant, that's for putting in a monitoring well. And Jordan had been looking at a location that apparently is now under the control of the Humane Society. And he's talked to them, and they want a letter from OBGMA to talk about what we're looking for and where. And I'm not sure what else, Jordan, you can chime in, but we're just going to go ahead and plan to get that letter out. We won't make a commitment to any funding or expenditures. If that is the case, we'll come back to the board and present to you what the Humane Society is interested in. Jordan?
Well summarized, John. Thank you. We have the Ojai Unified School District as a partner in the Wildlife Conservation Board projects, and they were the owner of some of those properties, but we found out that that was then donated to the Humane Society, and so we're shifting gears a little bit, but rather than drilling in July, it'll probably be August.
Where's the location? In the parking lot or in the back?
Ideally, we'd be in the back, but if the parking lot is the only spot that makes logistical sense and or they agree, then we'll go that direction. If we needed to, if for whatever reason it didn't work out with the Humane Society, we could go to a city parkway and just obtain the encroachment permit. But that's a little bit more hoops to jump through than going on the private property. So we'll see what comes of that first.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Next item, Jordan.
Sure, some basin status reports. I'm going to share the screen here for a couple things. The host disabled participant screen sharing. Jason, can you help us out in that regard? If not, we'll just have to go verbally.
I'm working on it. Just give me a second.
Okay, thank you. I think it was helpful last month to have the ability to share the screen on some of our graphics and such, rather than hold things up in the background. As much fun as that is.
Unfortunately, Zoom has changed the rules, and it's harder to get that to work for you guys. Just give me a second. Yeah, it's not letting me allow you to share right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So you won't be able to see all the great graphics and videos that we've collected. I was hoping to be able to share today, but when and if we have that opportunity, we will in the future. The input, output, and storage is what we typically talk about here. And the keys really start with precipitation. On the valley floor, we have 16.8 inches of precipitation. That gets up as high as 25 inches on the ridge tops and in the recharge areas, which is where most, if not all, of the recharge emerges from. And that then, of course, flows across the basin and exits either as surface water or infiltrates into the groundwater system. It was earlier this week that we noticed that the San Antonio Creek had ceased flowing continuously across the basin. And so what we've started to do is measure the point of ultimate infiltration and ultimate exfiltration from the basin. So we're monitoring the points where the water stops flowing at ground surface, and then on the discharge side where it starts flowing again. Building that database is something that we've been doing for the past couple of years, and it's very helpful to see how and where and when those points come to pass. So right now it was still flowing just the Fordyce Road, and then starting to flow again just to the upstream from Soul Park. And it's pretty typical for this time of year, and it tends to happen pretty quick that separation occurs and goes both north and south. What was interesting today is that the video I was hoping to show you shows a actual rise of the water level at where the terminus of flow is. So even though the flow is terminating, it was still encapsulating boulders as it was rising a little bit and advancing southward. Just speaking to the lag time, we think, between overnight lack of evapotranspiration and the capacity of the basin to infiltrate it. So it still is advancing lagging over a night of quiescence with respect to ET and the headwaters, and would probably be receding again and advancing and receding and advancing and receding over the course of any 24-hour period. It might go 500 feet in a day. It seemed to be advancing about a foot a minute at the time that we were looking at it today. But that's interesting and part of the database and the kind of thing that we can take a look at in greater detail as part of groundwater sustainability planning efforts and some of the field work. But all that is finding its way into the basin, and it appears that we may have hit our peak of storage within the basin this year about 3 days ago. Actually, at about 10 p.m. 3 days ago, where the depth to water in the Elrod well was 115.12 feet. And that possible peak would represent 78% basin capacity, or 62,400 acre feet. It may have receded a little bit since then, but that could be due to nearby pumping or pumping in the Elrod well itself. That said, the basin is flowing out at the surface, and today's measurement was 1.89 cubic feet per second on San Antonio Creek proper, and an additional 0.21 CFS from Montgomery Creek under Creek Road. And so couple those together, and there's about 2.1 CFS exiting the basin in that area. It's not insignificant amount of water, and of course not flowing continuously across the surface of San Antonio Creek or Montgomery for that matter. So all of that is exfiltrating from groundwater, and we still have the perch system that's contributing most, if not all of that, in that vicinity. So there is, sorry, there's not more graphics. We'll talk to our investors at Zoom about that and see if they can change those rules again for us. But eventually, when we can meet in person, hopefully sooner than later, we'll be able to share these on the big screens in the council chambers.
Okay, any questions? No questions? All right, our next item is public comments. Do we have anyone from the public? These are items not on the agenda.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you, number one, for having the meeting. I have a question. How many wells are in the Ojai Basin, private wells?
Jordan, do you know that?
I think Roberta might have a better answer to that.
Yeah, can I get you to identify yourself so we know who's talking?
My name is Ron Wilson from Persimmon Hill.
Okay, thank you, Ron. As far as I know, and Roberta, maybe, I don't know if you have the information at your fingertips, we have about 154 wells in our database.
That's about right.
Which includes, agricultural, domestic, and then wells that Casitas owns.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, the Ojai groundwater basin is required to go with California money and other grants. How many of those 154 wells actually pay on a quarterly basis?
Well, most of them are paying. On occasion we have a little bit of a problem, but some are only paying the extraction fee, or not extraction fees. You're only paying the wellhead fee because they don't pump any water. And then the remaining pay the wellhead fee and the extraction fee. I don't have numbers for you today for that, but we may be able to pull that together if you'd like to contact us after hours.
Okay, that would be great. And are the fees required? Obviously, we want to support you guys, but are the fees required by the state of California, or is it volunteer?
It's the OBGMA has its enabling legislation that was approved in 1991 or 1990, and it establishes the base fees for the agency, and then the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act that was passed in 2014 provides for the agency to add additional fees to help fund its groundwater sustainability plan and its activities related to groundwater sustainability planning. So it's essentially it's all under state law that authorizes it.
Yeah, but it's a volunteer amount because, as you know, we're being sued by Ventura City.
No.
So the groundwater basin, it's a volunteer amount.
No, it's not a volunteer amount.
It's
according to the Act of 2014, it says basically that you're required to get state funds. You can get fees, but there's going to be litigation in most of the groundwater management agencies. That's why it's important to know how many wells we have and then how many are really paying. And you should know that, I would think.
Well, this is Jim Finch. We have a list. I mean, Roberta has a list in the office, and everybody, what you're talking about is Sigma, but OBGMA precedes that, and this is my understanding, of course, and I'll preface it with that. But OBGMA precedes Sigma, and it is a mandated fee. I believe there is a de minimis amount where it's exempted, but anything over the de minimis is mandated to pay. It's not voluntary.
No, and we have in our ordinance, we have measures to enforce it. There's penalties for not paying it and late fees and that sort of thing. So we're the OBGMA is the agency that enforces the collection of the fees. And it's our ordinances that create the authority to do that.
Well, the reason why I asked, obviously we're on a pandemic, and I wish you guys are all safe and your families, I hope. But to raise the rates to $37, just because of some unknown reason, I mean, it really didn't explain, what the reason is. It's important for us to understand that, so we know that, during these critical times that everything is above board and we're following the right guidelines and rules.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason is behind the choices we have. The choices the OBGMA has, the state has mandated that this groundwater basin is a high priority basin and we must complete a sustainability plan. The choice is we do it ourselves, we collect the funds to do it, and we make it a public process locally, or another local agency like the county could be the authority and it would come in and do it. It would have the authority to collect fees. Or worst case, the state would intercede and the state would complete the plan itself. The legislation authorizes whoever the sustainability agency is to collect the fees. So I think the board, all of us felt that the best choice is for us to do it locally and not have another agency intervene.
Well, we appreciate your efforts. And that said, I know in the letter that you wrote, it was more or less complete, but it basically said if you're doing 2 acre-feet or less per year for domestic purposes, you shall be exempt from the fee. Is that true?
Peter, I believe that's what's in the resolution, Mr. Wilson. So that because Sigma does state that if you pump 2 acre-feet or less, you're a de minimis use and you're not subject to the fee. And so we've written a resolution for the board's consideration today that would exempt those pumpers.
So to clarify what you're saying, if you're extracting 2 feet or 2 acre-feet or less, you do not have to pay the fee.
Well, let me clarify that. You wouldn't have to pay the fee being proposed today, which is an additional $37 on top of the $25 that OBGMA already charges. But under GMA's legislation, you'd still be required to pay the $25.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Okay.
I appreciate your forthrightfulness in answering the questions.
We appreciate your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Or is there any other public that would like to comment?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Directors Finch, Johnson, Baggerly, Hages, and Breen, and also John for answering some questions that I sent over email. I am a new farmer in town in Ojai, and I have 2 wells off of Mercer and Grand. And I'm wondering, it says, when we haven't pumped more than 2 acre-foot a well yet, but we probably will next year. And I'm probably going to be under 2 acre-feet per well, but it's for agricultural purposes. In the past, before we planted, we were paying, I think it's like $12.50 for the being under a minimum amount every quarter. And I'm just wondering if the 2 acre feet, if the $37 additional fee would still apply to me, even if I'm under 2 acre foot a well, because I'm for agricultural purposes.
This is Mr. Goldman.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, thank you. I was going to speak to that in the public hearing, but currently the way, if the board does adopt the resolution before them today, the structure is such, if you use 2 acre feet or less, you wouldn't pay in any given quarterly billing period. However, any period that you go over that 2 acre feet, you would be then required to pay.
Here. Oh, okay.
John, this is Jim. That doesn't quite make sense that it would be 2 per quarter.
I'm sorry, my mistake.
Yeah.
It's based on an annual amount of water use.
Sure.
Right.
So if you use annually, if the 4 quarters total up 2 acre feet or less, you're not going to pay.
Also, this is Peter Candy. The way the resolution is drawn up, it would apply
Oh, thank you.
to
Peter.
agricultural pumpers
That's right.
that are 2 acre feet or less. However, my understanding is that the agency, because of the administrative difficulty of discerning agricultural pumpers from domestic pumpers, just would treat everybody the same. And I think that's what John is speaking to when he says that, regardless of whether you pump for agricultural use or domestic use, if you're pumping 2 acre feet or less, you're exempt. But nevertheless, the resolution is drawn up a little more specifically, and in that regard, it applies to de minimis pumpers who are 2 acre feet or less for domestic purposes. Those are the parties that are technically exempt.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. I have one more question if there's time.
Sure, go ahead.
And I got a very good answer back from John, but I just wanted a follow-up question. I asked, taking a look at the fee table 2 in one of the exhibits, it's the table used to justify the $37 additionally extraction fee. And it's based on projections of 4,000 acre feet per year. And looking at some of the past data, it looks like many years are over that, and this last year was 4,600 acre feet. I understand that it's prudent to project a lesser amount, but if there is a lot more revenue generated, is it possible that in the later years of the 5-year project that the rate could go down? Is that something you guys are going to look into?
This is John Mundy again. I was going to recommend that to the board, that we take a look at how much revenue we received, we look at our expenses. And one of the comments that I was going to make was, we don't know the exact cost of preparing this groundwater sustainability plan. We have an estimate that was put together, but it could be less. And so early on, the fee, if the board adopts it today, could be $37, but we're not allowed to charge more than what we need to prepare this groundwater sustainability plan. So if that's the case, I would come back to the board and suggest a lowering of that fee if we have more than adequate revenue to cover the cost of preparing the plan.
Sir, this is Ron Wilson again. Can I make just one short comment?
Sure.
Okay, the comment that I have is this. With the Thomas fire that we had, I wanted to commend the Casitas Municipal Water District and the city of Ojai for all of the work that you guys did saving Ojai, bringing in generators, having your guys work 24/7. It was highly commendable. In fact, I got Nationwide News to come out and interview someone there at the Ojai Municipal Water District, but you should be very, very proud of your action plan on what you guys did to save Ojai. And I know personally what I did. I went around to many as your workers as I could, bought them lunch, gave them some money, and thanked them for the excellent work that they did. You guys are real important to our community and you're heroes. And thanks again for such a great action. And I know Ventura, I've heard, is copying you guys. I talked to Steve Bennett's office, and he's copying you guys to duplicate in Ventura what you did here in Ojai. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, thank you for taking the time to go through this Zoom process that we have. It's been nice to see your faces. But all right, if we have no other comments, the next item is approval of the minutes from the April 30th meeting. If you have any comments or amendments to that, entertain a motion to approve it.
I so move.
Second.
Call the roll, Roberta,
Director
excuse
Finch?
me.
That's fine.
Yes.
Director Finch? Director
Yes.
Bagley? Director
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Director Thibsey? Chair Hages?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the treasurer's report.
I just wanted to give you a quick few comments on that. Related to the budget for April, we had to transfer about $10,000 in monies from savings to checking to help cover expenses for that month. They're primarily related to work that the hydrologist has been working. He's been working more, increasing his hours. I've spent a few more hours assisting with information related to the cost of service analysis and preparing agendas. And then our attorney has spent more time reviewing things that we've needed to bring forward to you. So that isn't always the case, has been in the past, but I think over the next few months, we're going to continue to see expenses increase for a while. And, we'll certainly monitor that and make sure that we don't have a problem related to revenues and expenses. Then for April, for the quarter, January through March, we did send out a extraction fee, a statement to the pumpers, and we did receive a little over $20,000 in revenue for that period. So I know we haven't got all the revenue in, but at this point, that's what we received. So with that, I don't have anything else on the financials unless you have questions.
How do we go about being reimbursed for that grant? I see you have grant activity as part of the budget, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Who's managing that?
Well, it looks like I am and Jordan is. So we have already submitted one billing to the Water Conservation Board. It's actually being administered by the Ventura County Resource. Is it the county? Not the County Resource Conservation District. Yeah, Resource Conservation District. And so we've submitted an invoice for, I want to say around $6,000. And we invoice quarterly. So as Jordan has more expenses, which he's primarily the one that'll be working on this, I'll have a few hours for administration. But as we get draft invoices each month to prepare, or each quarter, we'll be sending those out and but we don't know when the reimbursement's going to occur. It could be several months away because the Resource Conservation District reviews all the submittals. Then they send them to the Water Conservation Board, and then they'll cut the checks unless they have further questions.
Okay. One thing I'd like to suggest is we start to create a balance, a fund balance for these grants so that we know whether we're digging into the general fund or we have received the payments. So the general fund balance represents the general fund balance, and whatever the special reimbursable funds have their own.
Yeah, we have a budget for the Wildlife Conservation Board grant. I'm working with the bookkeeper right now, and we're setting up the right accounts to be able to monitor the expenses and revenues related to those grants. So, and we do have essentially an overall budget. So we'll make sure that all gets set up.
All right. Because it'll be helpful if people have questions about where the money's going from this new fee. So.
Yeah, well, this fee is not going to cover that grant.
No, I know that, but that one's going to be small compared to what this other one's going to be.
Yeah, that grant's about $174,000. We have some in-kind amounts for that. I didn't pull all the numbers together, but I think we're going to get about $150,000 out of it.
Okay.
And it'll cover the cost of drilling that well, the monitoring well.
And some of the basin output monitoring that we're doing monthly and things of that nature.
Yes. Thank you, Jordan.
Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to?
I do have one question. Have we started the public outreach program for the GST?
No, and partly the reason for that is we don't have anything to outreach with yet. As part of the request for proposals, we're asking the firms to submit what they think would be an outreach effort. I did put something together related to the grant application that estimated 4 public meetings over 2 years. And then there would be additional 4 board meetings that could be also counted as public meetings, a total of 8 meetings. But we've got to pull a lot of information together and start crafting materials that we would then present at these meetings. So that hasn't been done yet.
Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion to accept the financial reports?
Yeah, I move we receive and file.
Second, Jim.
Roberta, call the roll.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Baggerly,
Yes.
Director Johnston,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item will open the public hearing on the Groundwater Sustainability Plan extraction fee. John?
Yeah, I'll just give you a quick overview, and some of what I was going to speak to was spoken to earlier, but I'll just paraphrase it quickly. As mentioned in the April meeting, I prepared a cost analysis to determine the revenue necessary to fund the preparation of a groundwater sustainability plan. The cost estimate is based on the cost outlined in the grant submittal that we did to DWR, based on an estimated cost of approximately $467,000 to prepare the groundwater sustainability plan. The extraction fee will then need to rise from $25 to $62, which would be an increase of $37 an acre foot. 2 questions were raised by Mr. Goldman. He alluded to those earlier, and I'll just briefly mention those. Why is the estimated extraction in fee in Table 2, Exhibit 1, used to justify $37 projected at 3,000 acre feet in 2019 and 4,000 for subsequent years. I had responded that originally the 3,000 acre feet was really just based on a partial year. And so that partial year keeps getting whittled down at this point. So we only have 1 quarter left in this year. And in fact, if you adopt this resolution, it'll take effect July 1st, which would only leave 1 quarter of revenue, but it usually typically is your highest revenue period for 2020. 4,000 acre feet in the remaining years is a conservative estimate. I've seen, as I told Mr. Goldman in my email, I've seen extractions range from 5,500 acre feet down to 3,000 acre feet, depending on what's going on with rainfall, depending on calls for conservation, and depending on changes in cropping pattern and use by agriculture. So this is somewhat of a conservative amount. We could sell more water. That could change that. The amount of the groundwater sustainability plan consulting contract could be less than what was estimated. And so there are a lot of variables right now. We don't know 100% what they'll be, but this is our best guess to move forward. And if things change and it looks like it could be a smaller fee in subsequent years, I would come back and recommend that to the board. The second question Mr. Goldman had was related to being reimbursed by the state of California, which, you know, he does speak to the issue that under the Constitution, there's a requirement to reimburse public agencies for laws that are passed. Mr. Candy has provided a response to that, which I shared with Mr. Goldman. And essentially says whenever a local agency has the authority to level service charges, fees, or assessments sufficient to pay the cost of state mandated programs, the constitutional requirement for the state reimburse the agency does not apply. So, so in this case, that's why we're moving forward with the amount. And even if the state did reimburse us, we'd still have to spend the money. We'd still have to collect revenue to cover the cost early on. But in this case, OBGMA doesn't have the ability to get any reimbursement from this. I think that's pretty much my comments. You know, our recommendation is that the board would approve resolution 2020-1. It would implement an increase in the extraction fee of $37, bringing the total extraction fee to $62 per acre foot per year. So with that, any questions you have, I'm ready and willing.
Do we have any more public comments?
This is Jason Goldman. Can I just say thank you, John and Peter, for your responses to my email. They were very thorough, and thank you, OBGMA, for putting all the materials online. I had fun a couple nights ago going through everything. You know, I thought it was important to get back to you right away, and at least you had that response and prepared for this meeting today. So that's how I like to operate business. And I had asked Ms. Barbie today if we had any other comments, and we did not receive any. Is that correct, Roberta?
That is correct.
Okay. So we do appreciate your comments, Mr. Goldman and Mr. Wilson.
All right, then we will close the public hearing and the board is open for board discussion. Anyone have any comments?
I have one question, John. Did you, isn't this the fee, the additional $37, isn't that per quarter, not per year?
No, it's
Well, per acre foot.
Acre foot per quarter, and you pay every quarter, right?
Yeah, but you pay quarterly. So if you use 100 acre feet in a quarter, you're going to pay the additional $37 on that. And, you know, each quarter you're going to pay an additional $37 per acre foot.
Right. It's billed every quarter, though.
Billed every quarter, right.
Any other comments?
I had discussion. This is Jim. I had discussion with a couple of people, and you know, to say no one's happy is an understatement. But I think they do understand it has to be done, and I also kind of ad lib that if it came in over, then I thought we'd be dropping it in the out years. So I'm glad to hear John kind of mimic that same thing.
Yeah, I've been through this before with other agencies. I asked the board to raise water and sewer fees, and I did commit that we'd give them an annual review. And if the expenses were lower than the fee was necessary, then we would come back and either hold off the fee for that year or request the board lower it. So I see that that's just good business practice and it's fair to the public.
Yeah, John and I worked on that budget a little bit together, and it's pretty front loaded because of the cash flow problem we have. So we should know very early into this, whether we're going to be able to pay for it, in 2 or 3 years rather than 5.
But, and I will say, from the farming standpoint, the economics are terrible they're not good. Let me just say that this year. So you could easily see less water pumped in some of these years. So I think it's not outlandish at all. I think being it's conservative. I think that's an excellent word for it. And so while I don't like it, as how much it is, I think it is necessary and support it.
Well, I think the history of the board has been to be very conservative and protective of the pumpers and the users.
Right.
There's no reason we couldn't, in the out years, provide credits back to the customers if it turned out that we were actually collecting more than was required because of the volume of water purchased or because of reimbursements from other agencies.
Right. No, I think it's a sound plan.
Jim, this is Russ. As a member of the Casitas Municipal Water District Board, I can tell you that there are people not subject to the $37 per acre foot that are likewise unhappy, but about other things.
Yeah, yours even used a comma on the Casitas.
Yeah. Are there any other comments?
You ready for a motion, or what do we do?
Do we have a resolution?
Okay. I would move approval of the resolution.
I second it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, Roberta?
who was the second?
Director Finch?
Peter?
Okay, thank you.
Is Peter and Johnson or
Right.
Johnny? Okay.
Right.
All right. Director Finch?
Yes.
Director Baggerly?
Yes.
Director Johnston?
Yes.
Director Thielke?
Yes.
And Chair Hages?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, John. That was a big task.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Our next item is item C, application from Finch Farms for a well permit.
Yeah.
So I will recuse myself as a director, but I'm here to answer questions.
Okay.
And Jordan, did you have anything to chime in on this?
Yeah, just briefly, I've assisted Jim on a number of these projects, and we've discussed the location of these wells. And again, like Jim, my input is for information purposes only. Happy to give it.
And
They're
this
pretty clear cut replacement wells.
right. Yeah, I was going to say this is a replacement well. So I guess the question is the old well going to be abandoned?
Yes. After the new one is up and working.
Understood.
Well, I will offer the recommended action.
Second.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Roberta?
Director Baggerly?
Yes.
Director Johnston?
Yes.
Director Thielke?
Yes.
And Chair Hages?
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other items?
No, I just wanted to mention unless Director Johnston has something he can add. My last contact with the city is didn't appear there was going to be a ability to use the council chambers anytime soon. So it looks like we're going to be continued to be doing these meetings in this fashion until I hear something different.
Right. I think that the city's approach right now is not to reopen until the order is lifted by the governor and the county director of medical services or public health.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate the city assisting us with this. It's kind of a big deal to manage these meetings when you're on the technical side, at least from my perspective. And
I understand.
I'd prefer not.
Tom knows I'm his number one customer for technical failures. Yeah.
So we thank you, Jason, for your help on that.
we
thanks,
really
James.
appreciate it.
I just hope that
Go ahead.
I just hope that Zoom doesn't change too many rules in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I just go ahead.
Mine, Jordan, it shows green for share content. So maybe it was something on your end.
Yeah, well, let's try this. You want to try real quick? Just for
Yes.
gets and shiggles, as we say.
Who says that?
I say that.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's.
Yeah,
There you go. So this is the terminus of the flow. You can see, pick a boulder or cobble and watch it disappear, the dry part at least, as the water level's rising.
So,
if you guys don't mind watching some of this, it's kind of fun.
That's real exciting.
Yeah.
I like watching.
And
you have any paint over there that you want us to watch? Dry?
Yeah, we got plenty. While we're doing that, here's the table of table of basin outflow there, with the 1.89 CFS at San Antonio Creek and 0.21 coming out of Montgomery. Updated hydrograph.
That's a great table.
Yeah, that's what the Wildlife Conservation Board is paying for. So there's your peak, possible peak, the 25th of May, 115.12 feet, 2.5 feet shallower than last year's peak, but last year's peak being in July.
Okay.
Let's see some of the others that are fun. We'll just try this. We'll just do it and ask for rules later, right? Share that. There's the picture of the terminus of the flow. Can everybody see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that about?
That's just up near Fordyce and San Antonio Creek.
That's your cell phone?
That's that's our cell phone photograph. You can see that. Let's see some of the others. That's where we monitored the flow at San Antonio Creek. You can see the bedrock exposure there off to the right of the image, and our line going across, and then Montgomery Creek going underneath Creek Road. There's a nice little channel for monitoring that 0.2 of a CFS. Sorry for the we'll know what to do next time. Thanks, Jim, for the heads up on just go for it.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
One thing I would like to suggest for the minutes of this meeting, that we put the public comments from Mr. Goldman and Mr. Wilson as part of the hearing. There was some confusion, and this isn't the easiest way to do this kind of thing, but they made their comments under items not on the agenda, and those were items related to the public hearing.
Yeah,
so for the record, it should be part of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll make sure that happens. That was partly the reason I wanted to read Mr. Goldman's questions into the record. So we'll make sure that the minutes reflect that.
All right, good. And Roberta, I'd like to thank you for the agenda you put online. Is really easy to use with the links and everything. It's great.
Glad to help.
Yeah, and likewise, Roberta, I'll send you a PDF of that hydrograph so you can put that up on the website.
Okay.
All right, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned at 3:51.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,